When the player hovers over the start button and the exit button, the code that triggers the sound key plays commencing the hover sound. Then, when the player clicks on the start button, the sound cue plays commencing the button press sound. I overlap the scenes of the main scene and the game scene, so therefore we can hear the button release sound after the scene changes as well, because otherwise the sound will be cut off when the scene changes. When the player is moving, you can hear the concrete footsteps playing. When the player stops, the footstep sound also stops. This is achieved by using a raycast from the player's leg to detect the different floor surface beneath. In this case, it's the concrete floor. When the player is moving, you can hear the grass footsteps playing. When the player stops, the footsteps sound also stops, just like the concrete steps. This is achieved by using a raycast from the player's leg to detect the different floor surface beneath. In this case, it detects the grass surface, and therefore plays the grass walking sound when the player is moving. Here, I am showing the audience how the code works between the different surfaces and how well the raycast works at changing sounds, depending on the specific surface. So I'm moving left and right, so you can hear the concrete sound change into the grass sound, and this shows how well the raycast works by detecting the different surfaces beneath the player. Here I am showcasing the special sound that happens when the player interacts with it. In this case, the player needs to touch the object, which in this case is the bin, and then press E. This commences a piece of code that plays the sound of dropping something into a bin. This piece of code only works when the player is touching the bin, and if the player presses E when not next to the bin, the sound won't play. I achieved this by using a collider. I am showcasing the same code used elsewhere in the map to show that it works for all green dumpster bins and is interacted with the same way as before. With this sound, I first used a thump sound to mimic the sound of something dropping into the bin. I then used a sound of two china cups clinking together when you cheers to mimic the sound of glass bottles. And then I also used a leaves rustling sound to mimic the bag inside of the bin when something drops into it. These were all my used sounds in my project. I used the button press sound for the UI, the button hover sound for the UI, and the button release sound for the UI. For footstep sounds, I used the concrete footstep sounds and the grass footstep sound. I also used the city ambient sound, as my scene was set in a city, and I also used the dropping item in the bin sound.